Hey, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Amy.
Welcome to United Humans, a podcast that goes into the personal lives of our 6,000 plus volunteer medics and their families.
75-year-old male, possible cardiac arrest.
My name is Gabi Friedson.
I'm Dina. This is Ronnie. We're a couple.
I'm Vicky.
United Hatzalah's only mission is saving lives, and we'll discuss how that doesn't leave room for discrimination against color, race, religion, or sexual orientation.
Let's talk about fear, trauma, pain, and connection.
Join us. Let's discuss these diverse volunteers from all across the country. Hello, and welcome back to United Humans. Sarah Bechor here. Today we're actually missing Amy. Sadly, we miss you, Amy. And I am sitting with Maayan Yogev. Did I just say that right?
Almost.
Maayan
Yogev.
Maayan Yogev. I have the wrong syllable and the wrong, how do they say it? The wrong syllable and the wrong, I forget how they say that, but my miftah is all off. So, yeah,
That's okay. Most of my American family doesn't get it either.
Really? I try. Yeah. I really do try.
It's really okay.
I finally learned to say my name like Sarah and not Sarah. Took me long enough. How did I say it? Oh, I remember. The wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. I do that a lot. Well, I'm really happy you're here.
Thanks
we
for having
met
me.
a few years ago.
We
do you
have.
remember me?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. That means I'm impressionable. That's good. When we were doing our 90-second series videos, and we went to meet you in Hartzofim, I remember.
I think it was in Karem at the time.
Oh, was that it? Yes.
Yeah.
You're right. You were right. It was on Karem. See? In Kerem. And what? I don't even remember. What were you doing? You were...
I was in med school. I was in my second year maybe, or third. I can't remember now how long ago it was. And you came to do a 90-second video with me on campus. Took a bunch of my friends, my student friends, did a video together.
Yeah. 90 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe we'll post it in this the text of this podcast if you want to see more of Maayan. So that was awesome. And and it's been a few years, but it's really, really awesome to see you again. And I'm so happy you're here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
With a pending snowstorm, she made it out here. And I want to talk about how you're in med school, but let's just start from, I guess, the beginning. Like, where are you from? Did you grow up in Israel?
Yeah, so I am originally from Kibbutz Suba, which is a kibbutz right outside of Jerusalem, about 20 minutes from where we're sitting right now. And I was born in Israel, in Suba. Both of my parents are Americans that made Aliyah in the early 80s. Met actually in Israel on the kibbutz, got married, and had 5 kids when I'm the third. So grew up and lived in Suba for most of my life. Only moved out to a different place about a year ago, also around the area. And yeah, currently living with my wife and my almost 7 months old baby.
What?
Yeah.
See that, folks? I did do my research.
Just go into my Facebook. It's a very simple research.
You had a baby.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. Look at that. Okay, so that's lots to talk about.
We can touch on that too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow.
And I'm in my 5th year in medical school right now.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And I heard you said gynecology before. Is that just part of your residency, or? It's
part of my, in the last 3 years of medical school, it's a 6-year program in Israel. The last 3 years are basically clinical rounds. So we're supposed to touch on everything. We go into all the different departments. Right now I'm starting gynecology, which I am looking forward to. That's definitely one of my options.
So you didn't decide yet?
No, not yet. Keeping my
I have a very
open.
important question. Did you grow up on merry-go-rounds and roller coasters? Was that like what you did in the afternoon?
Oh, that's because...
Let me preface
well,
that.
I was...
Suba is known for like one of the only mini amusement parks in the country, so...
Yeah, well, definitely spent a lot of times there. But as a kid, I think it was always there. It was very obvious, so I think we didn't think much of it.
Like your backyard.
You were like, yeah, like whatever, let's go again. We only went when it was closed, because then you can actually go on all the rides without sitting in line.
That's how people knew Tsuba until the summer, where then a lot of people got to know Tsuba, unfortunately, from the fires. Were your parents affected by that at all?
They were evacuated. Actually, where I am living, which is also not far, also was evacuated.
Oh, wow.
Eventually, everything turned out. We lost a lot of land, but no homes and nobody was hurt.
Yeah, thank God.
So
big wildfires this past summer.
Definitely.
Wow, scary.
And now pending snow, so we get all the seasons here.
All the elements. Wow. Okay. So you grew up in Suba, and you grew up in a non-religious home, religious home?
Non-religious. Both of my parents made Aliyah after, they grew up in a Zionist Jewish home, and you celebrate all the holidays, but definitely not in a religious way, and the kibbutz is a secular kibbutz. So definitely I would say secular, non-religious home.
Wow. And are you like happy? Was it a kibbutz style? Like I've been there. It seems like it has a kibbutz style.
It's definitely still a kibbutz, how it used to be, let's say. Still very communal. And we do all the holidays together and a lot of events, and it's very, very close. And definitely more on the secular, liberal side of the map.
And an amazing makolet.
I
know that much.
Yeah.
Wow. Makolet is like a little supermarket, like store.
For a very long time as a kid, I thought that if something doesn't exist in that makolet, then it just doesn't exist in the world.
Probably, because it really covers a lot.
Yeah.
For all those Americans out there looking for their, I don't know, marshmallow fluff, now you know where to go. Super.
There you go.
Wow. Okay, cool. And then so you didn't grow up religious, and then traditional home, living in Suba, which is about 30 minutes outside of Yerushalayim. Did you spend time in Yerushalayim? Would you say like you're a Jerusalemite or not?
I wouldn't say I'm a Jerusalemite, but definitely know Jerusalem pretty well. I mean, that's the big city that I know. And also high school, I went to high school in Jerusalem. So that's when I really got to know real Jerusalemites and really know the city.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when did you get interested in like medicine, and how did that come about?
Well, it was actually pretty coincidental. I mean, I was in high school, and during high school we get our different summons and interviews to different jobs in the army, in the military, and I got a letter saying that I can try to test into a paramedic course, and I didn't really have any idea what it is. I knew that there were paramedics in ambulances, and I didn't do anything like that in high school. I didn't volunteer. I didn't even study biology. It was really far away from me. And I debated with my brother. My older brother was in the military at the time, and he said it sounded very interesting to him because he knows a few paramedics in his unit, and he knows that they're doing a really good and interesting job, and I should try it out. And that's basically how it started. I went to the tryouts. There were 2 of them, and I passed them, and then they asked me if I want to continue, and I said yeah. So I went into the course, and summer of 2010 or 11, and that's where I started my medical path.
So there was nothing before that made you interested in medicine or
the
medical world?
Not really. I was always into action. I knew I wanted to do. I was only into like, I don't know, bungee jumping or all like
very to medical school.
Yeah, no, not medical school, but being in the action. And I knew that I wanted it also when I was in high school, and I was thinking about my army service. I knew I wanted to be in the field with the other soldiers, and I didn't want to sit in front of a computer. So I thought the paramedic would be a good idea, but the medical part, I really didn't know that I would like so much. And I really fell in love with it in paramedic course. I really realized that is something that is fascinating and interesting, and it's such an honor and a great privilege to be at a side that can help people. I really love that side of it.
Wow. So did you have any like crazy stories in the army?
So as part of our military service, I was placed with my unit in North Golan Heights in the Syrian border, and we treated hundreds of civilians that came from the civil war that's still going on in Syria, and that was where I, as a soldier and in general in my life, got most of my medical experience, and definitely a lot of stories that stuck with me. But one in particular was this boy that came. We don't get much information beforehand. Obviously, I don't even know exactly what communication happens between us and them. I just get a call, and we were told that it's probably a child, a boy. So we got ready for that. I mean, we are in the military, so mostly we're treating young men. So that was something that we had to like think of. We have all the right equipment ready, and everything is set up. And I had to talk to my medics that never treated a kid and talk to them about what we need to do. And we got there, and there was actually really a boy. It's not always, it doesn't always happen as they say, but it was a young boy. I estimated he was about 7 or 8 years old. There wasn't anybody with him. He was just brought with a few strangers, no parents, no siblings, anything. So he was unconscious. We started treating him. I saw that he was injured in his head. Seemed like a bomb went off near him, or we have no idea.
This doesn't make it to the news, meaning they don't ever show the Israelis showing the Syrian children.
I think it was very, at that time in 2013.
We have a baby in the back. Okay, fine. We're busted. We're just going to have to tell everybody. So my baby's here with us. Last minute, long story. Maayan came from so far away, and she's such a busy schedule. And in the land of Corona, where everyone's always, well, he's actually not in Bidud, but that's another story. So please forgive the baby sounds in the background. I apologize.
I promise you he's adorable. Don't be
is.
mad at him. He's very cute.
Hope you could handle that in the background. But keep focused on Maayan. She is the ikar here, the main thing. Okay.
So it didn't make it the news at the time because I think they weren't sure how much they are allowed censor-wise to publish this for security reasons. They didn't want to put us in risk. So that's why eventually it did make it to the news, not a story specifically, but the knowledge that we are treating Syrians did make it to the news. But that's why at the time we weren't even allowed to talk about it. So this kid came and he's unconscious, and we're trying, me and another paramedic that was also there, eventually intubated him, helped him because he wasn't breathing well on his own. And
like
also,
they just found him? Like, where was his family?
well, we don't know. That's the thing. We don't get much of information. I do know that later on they were able to bring his mother into Israel to be with him because we took him to the hospital.
No, meaning how did he end up on the Israeli border? Like, how did he end up on the Israeli side?
There was some kind of a communication that was already after we treated hundreds of patients. So there was some kind of a communication that is way above me, and I don't know even to say, and I'm sure that it's not something that people know much of. It's way high up ranks in the army that deal with those things. They did know in the beginning. I think the first patients that came just came from desperation and came hopefully that maybe they will be saved. They didn't know if they would be killed because just as much as we think they're the enemies, they think the same about us.
Right.
And then
surprise, we're not.
And then they started getting treated, and I think the rumors were spreading on the Syrian side, and eventually they were just coming. They were just coming to the border, and we were on the other side seeing them. So we took this kid, we intubated him, we took it to the hospital, and I didn't know. That's the thing. I didn't know how he was. He goes to the hospital. I think he went to Nahariya Hospital up north, and I obviously stayed with my unit, and what used to happen back then is that as much as we were taking them to the border, from the border to the hospital, we would also have to take them back to the border because they were refugees. They couldn't stay in Israel. So after they got their first medical treatment, we would take them back to the border, hopefully that they would survive. So we would get calls saying, okay, go meet the ambulance in this and that intersection and bring them back to the border. And again, no information. So we went to see this patient that we're supposed to return, and surprisingly enough, we opened the door. This was a week later after we took him to the hospital. We opened the door and we see this kid awake, walking, smiling, walking on his two feet with his mother that they were able to track down and bring her.
Wow.
And it was amazing. I mean,
You didn't think he was going to live?
I didn't think he was going to live. I definitely didn't think he was going to walk a week later.
How old do you think this kid was?
Then we asked, and she said his mom said he was 8. So it was 8 years old. And it was amazing. And that was a moment where I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. First of all, unbelievable that this kid survived and how, they see he was capable of doing that himself, but also like how amazing it is that we were able to save his life. And that there's no doubt that if he were to stay in his house or wherever this happened in Syria, he wouldn't. He
would have been killed.
And that was quite an amazing feeling.
Wow.
And so that definitely stuck with me. That we did treat more children than just that, but that was one story that really stuck with me. And I can only hope that he's still alive.
Yeah,
and
please God, right? We never know what's going on over there.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you return them back to Syria.
We return them back to the border and they take off.
It's like sometimes medics tell me that, like, especially where I live in the Gush, that like Palestinians will come out of Section A just to call 1221.
Yeah. So they just came, and we treated them.
Of course, humanity.
So that was I was really happy, grateful that I could be that person for them, and also I felt like I could really, maybe it's a very small change, but really make a small be able to see patients, Syrians that thought that we were the devil, that we were the enemy, and treat them and tell them that no, I'm a medic, I'm here to help you, and really help them. I mean, I heard from them also that they said, you changed my view about Israel. I mean, I'm going to tell all my family and friends that you saved my life. And that's, I mean, even if it changed one person's view on the other side, that's
by example.
That's
Until
everything.
they experience it, they're just going to believe whatever they hear. But if they see it with their own eyes.
Yeah.
Baby, this is not a podcast for you. I really do apologize for all of you listening. Hopefully you're getting a kick out of it and not really annoyed. I promise you it's well worth it to keep listening. Wait, so what year did you leave the Army?
I finished my service in 2014, November 2014. And then I, like most Israelis after the Army, went traveling a little bit.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
Well, first I went to the States with a friend also to travel and to visit family for a couple months. Then I came back. I worked to save more money, also in the medical field. And then not too long after I came back from the States, I met my partner, now my wife, Jessica. So then we traveled also together to New Zealand and Australia. And all that time I was debating what's next.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm at this point 23, going on 24, and thinking what I should do. And I definitely knew that I couldn't find anything that's more interesting than medicine, in the medical field.
So you fell in love.
Basically, yeah. And I was trying to maybe convince myself to try other things because I know how hard it is, and I know how hard it is to get into medical school. And maybe there's other things I could do, but nothing was as interesting.
Yeah, but there's so many options. Like to go from that to saying I want to be a doctor. Like you could have been, I don't know, lots of options in the medical world. Why
True.
a doctor?
I think I felt like I want to know more, and I want to learn more of this. I still wanted to practice as a paramedic, which is also why I volunteered for United Hatzalah, and I worked in the field before I went to medical school. But I did want it to broaden my knowledge in medicine, and also seeing those patients and seeing them after I treated them and seeing their process and what they go through is something that I was really drawn to. I mean, as a paramedic, you see them at their worst in the first, 10 hours to an hour, 10 minutes to an hour of their worst of their life. But I wanted to see the process. I wanted to help them with the recovery and to see them go like on the other end of it. And that's what medicine allows you to do. So that's something that.
So you didn't train with Hatzalah. You trained in the Army.
Yes.
And so how did you join Hatzalah? You just tell them, oh, here's my paperwork or my certification, and they just accept you, or?
Well, what happened is that I was living on the kibbutz after I got out of the Army, and there was an very unfortunate event where a father of a very close friend of mine had a heart attack in his sleep at night, and they were doing CPR on him, and unfortunately he didn't survive. But in that moment, I only heard about it the next day because I wasn't on call or for anything. Nobody was thinking to call me, and I felt so. I mean, I heard that the ambulance took half an hour to get there because we don't live in the city. And
how close were you?
2-minute walk.
Oh no.
And not that I could maybe help, but I didn't even have the equipment. Maybe if I had a defibrillator, and I really thought like, wait, I should do something. I mean, I'm right here. If someone has a heart attack, I can help. I'm right here. And then I started reaching out to see how can I get that certificate and or the equipment to have. You
knew about United Hatzalah already?
So I knew about it a little bit, but I kind of knew that it's mostly in Jerusalem, mostly in the cities. It's a Haredi organization, and I really didn't think much of it. And I knew about MADA because that's where I trained. That's where I was trained in the Army.
Right.
So I did reach out to a few people because I have a few connections, and eventually I heard that they say, "Listen, United Hatzalah will love to have a paramedic in that area. They really don't have a lot of people there, and they would love to give you everything." So I reached out to the closest office
chapter
to Tsuba, and sure enough, they were really happy to hear from me, and of course, gave me everything I needed, all the explanations and the insurance and everything.
Wow!
And very fast. It was
a defibrillator.
And a defibrillator.
Wow, this is incredibly professional. I did work out babysitting. It's just that the babysitting didn't work out.
Yeah.
And we couldn't miss this opportunity.
You didn't want to miss the podcast. You wanted to see it
clearly.
firsthand.
Hopefully he's adding charm and not annoyance.
Exactly. No, I mean,
but
he's
Maayan
very
is a
happy.
medical student. She's so busy and she's married and she has a kid. So it's not so easy to get here. So had to take advantage.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind it at all.
Hopefully our listeners don't mind either. So 1 second. So you became, I didn't even hear the answer. So they gave you a defibrillator?
They gave me a defibrillator. They gave me everything.
Medic
all
bag.
my medical equipment that I need as a paramedic, which is more than the basic.
Right.
Intubation and medicine. And
right. So for
really
people who don't know that, there's like an EMT medic and then there's a paramedic, which is, you're much, much more qualified. Can you pronounce a death? if you or
I could. It's interesting that that's what people.
That's what people
hopefully we don't
associate.
get to that, but yeah, we could pronounce death. I can also give different.
not that that's like such a great thing,
exactly.
but
Like hopefully,
do you
that's
get
what
to
we're trying
pronounce
avoid.
death? Like,
We give medicine. We can intubate and may basically do more advanced life support
Right, okay.
than just EMTs. So that I still to this day obviously have all these equipment, and I do go if I'm available, if I'm around, and then something happens, then I definitely.
and where do
go
you
out to
keep your
different calls.
equipment? Like in your car?
It's in my car. Yep.
Wow. So
yeah.
I want to go in so many directions right now. I don't know what direction to go to. So wait, walk me through this. So you got out of the army, you went traveling. What point did you meet? What'd you say your name is? Jessica?
Jessica. Yeah. Jessica. I met her right after I came back from traveling. So around the end of 2014, I came back, and she actually just made Aliyah a few months earlier.
Oh, wow.
And she came to the Ulpan to study Hebrew in the kibbutz.
Where's she from?
She's from San Diego, California. So she was there, and I came back from my traveling, and we met at the local pub, local bar in the kibbutz, and actually on a very snowy night. So it's
Full circle.
full circle here. Yeah. So then we've been together ever since.
How many years?
We're going on 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when did you get married?
We got married in the summer of 2018.
Wow.
So this summer's gonna be 4 years.
And you guys speak English, I'm assuming?
We speak English because when we met, she didn't know any Hebrew because she just made Aliyah. Now she knows way more Hebrew, but we kind of established our relationship in English, and that's what we're mostly speaking.
Right.
And also with our baby now, it's mostly English. I mean, we also wanted to speak English. So.
Right. So wait, so when was this? So 2018 you got married, and the baby is how old?
The baby is 6.5 months.
And how old is he? You said it's a he, right?
It's a he, yeah.
Yeah.
His name is Eli. He was born in
Eli.
July. Actually, July 4th.
Oh,
So yeah, he's a little
very American
independent.
baby.
Yeah, very American baby.
I'm sure that made some grandparents very happy.
Yeah,
American pride.
exactly. So he's
Eli.
adorable, really, really cute.
Wow. And how did that work? Can I ask if you had like a surrogate carrier, or did one of you carry the baby?
No, so Jess was a carrier. She had the baby, and we figured that she'll have the baby first. She's a bit older than me by a few years, and I'm also in medical school, very
Right.
busy. So she was gonna have a baby, and in the future I'll probably have a baby too. But I'll carry, but yeah, that was
Wow.
the.
And so this little cute baby boy, I want to see a picture, which we'll have to do after.
I have 1,000.
I'm sure. You should see what my phone looks like. It's like my other two kids are like, do we even exist? Hello.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I'm very curious if you're okay talking about this.
No
which
problem.
It's really interesting because there is definitely more and more gay pride in Israel. I would say more specifically in Tel Aviv, maybe not so much Jerusalem.
Yeah, I would say
more
so.
controversial, maybe. But I would love to hear your journey about this and what that's been for you also in terms of just being part of, I don't know, the medical world or United Hatzalah in specific, or it was interesting. At the beginning, you just said just now, oh, United Hatzalah, a Haredi organization. So tell me, is it a Haredi organization?
It's really not.
It's really not.
I mean, it's also among everything else that you can imagine.
It has
Israel.
Haredim. It also has lots of not Haredim. So tell me, I'm curious if you've ever had any challenges or, I don't know, anything that was discriminatory. I don't know. Take it
In
away.
Yichud or
in general.
In general?
Just tell me if you don't mind. Tell me
Yeah.
your journey. What was your story like? How'd you get to this? Oh, this baby's very distracting. Okay.
Well, and during my military service, I started thinking that I think I'm gay. I think and I wasn't sure yet, and I told only very close friends, and it wasn't and then when I got out of the army, I slowly thought about it more and more, and I traveled, and then I came back, and I met Jess, my wife, and then it was very clear for me, and then I made it very clear for my family and basically everybody. So again, when it comes to my family and my close surroundings, I come from a very, again, as I said, very liberal family and very open family. Actually, my older brother came out as gay years before I did. He's 5 years older than me, and he came out when I was 12. Yeah. So I knew that my family is very accepting. It still has its struggles. I mean, you have to come out and tell everybody. And there is something hard actually to being a second kid. But it wasn't really much of a struggle. I think it's always, I think the interesting thing about being lesbian is that you never stop coming out. I mean, it's always, I mean, when you're straight, it's the obvious. That's what people assume. People assume if I say that I have a kid, they assume that I carried him, that I have a husband. Like everybody has this, like most people assume a lot of things when I say that I have a kid or that I'm married, or if they see my ring and they just assume all these things about me.
Right.
So I think the struggle is to always try to make a purpose to come out. It's like, oh, it's my wife, it's not my husband.
Right.
Or,
It's like,
I wasn't pregnant.
you have to like come out every day.
Yeah, almost every day, and then of course at work or in school. I mean, patients, if they see my ring on my finger and they ask me or anything. I mean, it's always make a point, because I can just ignore it and say, yeah, my husband, but I don't. I always say the truth.
And why is that? Why is it that it's because that's probably the easier route, especially like just with work and dealing with patients? Like, what does it make a difference if they know if you are, if you're not? Like, why do you make the effort to make sure to say the truth and always be accurate?
Because I think visibility is very important. I think that part of that is education. I mean, if I see a patient, and again, just as much as the same thing with Syrians and seeing an Israeli soldier treating them, if they see a doctor or a med student that is helpful, that is nice, that is smart, that is kind, and also is gay, that changes their state of mind. That changes their perspective. I mean, because that person could be, I don't know where they come from, what's their background. Maybe they haven't even seen. I've seen patients that never even spoke to a gay person, and they're like, oh wow, I've heard so many things about you guys, and now I'm just like, you're just a normal human being treating me or helping me, or doesn't matter what. So I think that is very important for our struggle for equal rights.
Absolutely.
And so that's definitely something that I do make a point mostly to say, not to hide. So I think that's something that's always that's different from straight people. I mean, you always have to. It's always not that obvious for people.
Continuous.
Always, yeah. And I, in a way, kind of got used to it, and I also see, I mean, the importance of it. So that's why I'm also okay speaking to you about it,
Right.
and
Which I'm very grateful for.
and I have no problem. I'm very open about everything that has to do with me coming out. Something that, I mean, discriminatory, nothing, I don't think I had anything, I mean, homophobic said to me. I think the biggest event, homophobic event that I was part of, that's also a very famous event in Israel, was Pride Parade in 2015. I was already out. I was already with Jess, then my girlfriend, and I went to Pride with my mom, actually, that goes every year.
Wow.
And we were walking together with another friend of hers. My girlfriend, actually, my wife stayed home because she just had a tooth pulled out, so she was staying home. And we went, and a few meters behind me, that's where the stabbing happened.
Right. Oh my God.
This man came with a knife through the parade and stabbed several people. I don't even remember if it was 6 or 7 people, including Shira Banki.
Well. How old was she? She was young.
She was 16, and she actually went to the high school that I went to. And what happened is we were walking, and then all of a sudden I looked backwards. I heard people screaming, and I looked backwards, and I just see the people just spreading into two, and this man just running. And everything's happening really fast, and I didn't understand that this man had a knife, and he was attacking us. And then as he was really coming close to us, and then I saw two men later realize that they were undercover cops, pulling him down to the ground and arresting him. And then I saw that he has a knife, and then I realized that what was going on. And I looked backwards, and I saw people on the ground, injured. And this was I'm talking about a few months after I got out of the army.
Do you have any equipment on you?
So no, I did not. I wasn't there. I wasn't there as a paramedic. I was just there marching with everybody else. After that was the last time that you would caught me without equipment in the parade. I do have it ever since, but I didn't have anything. And I saw really, I want to say maybe 10 meters behind me was Shira Banki, the girl that was murdered, and she was still alive when I got to her. Right away, I mean, it took me a second to snap out of the shock that this is what happened. And I was like, okay, this is what's happening. This is an injured. We're treating trauma, and I just started doing whatever I could. Really didn't really have much, and there was another doctor that was also marching, that came to help.
How do you treat without a tourniquet?
It wasn't even, I mean, she was injured in her neck, so that it's really an injury that's hard to treat. We just applied pressure and tried to keep her awake as much as we could, and clear the path for the ambulance that came. And then when someone that did come with a little bit of equipment, we tried to help her put oxygen and whatever we could, until the ambulance came, which felt like forever, but it was a few minutes until they could make their way through, and took her to the hospital.
You're taking away the mood.
And then
I don't even know what to say. I don't really have words. I mean, this is just the most tragic. I remember this story so well because it was just, I don't know. I don't have words. It was so upsetting on so many different levels.
Yeah, it was pretty traumatic. And I mean that's after 3.5 years of service that I've been through. I mean, I've seen trauma patients and I've been in war, but the thing that happening in downtown Jerusalem in the most happy, I mean, the most unexpected event.
And she was coming just to show support.
To show support, she was coming as an ally and came with a few friends.
She was like a martyr.
Yeah, and so.
Is that one of the hardest people? Is that one of the stories that stick out in terms of treating? Definitely.
I mean, the combination of the fact that really there wasn't much I could do, but also how close to home it hit. I mean, the fact that it was just a matter of a few meters between her and me, and her and my mom. That's what I mean. It felt so personal. I mean, this person, this murder came to hurt us, came to hurt me. I mean, just as much as it came to hurt Shira.
It could have been anyone.
Yeah, it could have been anyone. It could have been my friends. It could have been my mom. It could have been me. And that was the hardest part about it. The fact that it was just pure, timing and luck, and yeah. Oh my gosh. And so.
Did you ever reach out to her family or?
I went to her. No, I thought about it a few times. I went to her funeral with my mom, actually. I thought a few times to reach out, but I felt in a way that as much as it was painful for me, it wasn't my pain. I mean, they lost their daughter, and I didn't want to intrude them with my story and with my pain. I'm still thinking about this day maybe to reach out. And I follow also her family is doing amazing things. They have different programs that they do in schools about acceptance and different
not discriminating
and solidarity and different things that they do in Jerusalem. So I definitely follow her and support their.
Wow, maybe there's program. A link we can post with this podcast. Definitely for the organization.
Yeah, it's called Derech Shira Banki, and it's it's just something that they're doing for her memory, which is really nice. So yeah, that's definitely a story.
That's the ultimate.
That's the ultimate story about me dealing with homophobia. Maybe
there's harsh words, and then stabbing is obviously another level completely. I mean, I think that's really incredible that you just happened to be right there. I mean, you could have been anywhere, right? It was miles and miles long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was happened right behind me.
So that's just also remarkable.
Looking back, I mean, after it happened, and then I started getting. We were still there where it happened, and I started getting messages saying like, "You're on the news. You're on the news." I'm like, "What?" Apparently, as I was treating her, there are obviously news cameras and coming and filming the whole thing. I didn't even know, and then so people were, like, "You okay? Is everything okay?" And just.
Were you interviewed on any of the channels or?
No, mostly because I didn't want to be. Right. I didn't want to be interviewed. But I was like you could see my photos, so my friends could recognize me in the news.
Wow. That's really traumatic.
That was definitely a traumatic event.
So, what about in United Hatzalah in general? Because you're in Mivaseret, which is very interesting because it's very mixed. A lot of mixed. Chapters, they're religious or not religious. This is a very mixed.
Very mixed. There are Haredim, there are Muslims from the villages around.
They're from Abu Ghosh is also in Mivaseret?
Yes, Abu Ghosh and other villages that are around there. They're secular, religious, really everything. People from kibbutzim, people from the city. So I think I never ever felt discriminated in the United Hatzalah. It's just as much as everywhere else that it's the coming out. And I think maybe in a way I felt that maybe I will be discriminated because of what I thought about, Haredim, religious people. So I a lot of times didn't come out and say it. I mean, if I was asked if I'm married, then of course I would say, but I didn't. Actively wear the flag. Mm-hmm. But every time I talked to it about people, about the volunteer with me, never ever heard anything. I mean, if anything, the opposite. She always gets invited, my wife, to events that they do.
Amazing.
And bring your partner.
Of course.
And really the opposite. So it's actually a very
I'm so happy to hear
pleasant
that.
surprise.
That's really great to hear. And also, I
Yeah.
hope it's like, it also, meaning this is the whole point of United Humans, is that we should understand, like, we're always talking about the obvious, I want to say signon, but I don't know how to say that in English.
Style or
like type of person
Yeah.
who we normally quote unquote discriminate against, right? So
Mhm.
there's the blacks and there's the Arabs and there's the gays, but like then there's also the Haredim
Mhm.
and you know, and also women, like we've discussed in this also on the podcast, where it's really, really important that as much as people are saying like, yeah, I'm not discriminated against, then they say, but it also has taught me not to discriminate. So growing up not in the religious world, has it helped you? Like, have you gotten to know Haredi women or Hasidish women or men or whatever? Like, has it helped you like realize like, oh, you know, or did Shtisel help with that? I don't know. It's either one or the other.
I mean, both. Definitely a combination. No, definitely. I mean, I do know Jerusalem and I grew up here, but I grew up in a very secular, I mean, even my high school or my family, everybody around me was always secular, even if they were from Jerusalem. And coming into United Hatzalah, definitely just the fact that seeing how people accepted me and how it's never an issue. And just I think always meeting a person and speaking to the actual person and not just hearing anything that's in the media or, you know, whenever people are speaking of a group of people, I always know that it can't be true. I mean, we're talking about individuals with stories that are, you know, whether they're Haredim or Aravim or Arabs or whatever they are. So it's just the opportunity to speak to those people, to do an ambulance shift with them, to, you know, to see them on the scene, to treat someone. You can, after you to do that, you can possibly think, oh, all Haredis don't want to, you know, they don't serve the army and they don't want to help the country.
It's never all or nothing.
So I think that's, definitely meeting those people in person.
Each person individually without deciding that person represents their
exactly
type.
And just because they wear a kippah or anything doesn't mean anything about what they think or believe or how they will treat you.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, no, I think really when people ask me about United Hatzalah, because I think a lot of people think about it as a Haredi organization, and they're sometimes surprised to hear that I volunteer for them. And I think I always say that about United. It's one of the coolest organizations that, I mean, especially where I'm in the Mevaseret area, that if I go out to someone in a car accident, I'm there with me, a Haredi guy from Telstone, an Arab from Abu Ghosh, a guy from Mevaseret, you know, and we're all there for one purpose. And it doesn't matter who we're treating also. It doesn't matter who's the person in front of us. And that is the essence of medicine. I think that's what's so cool.
Boom. This is the point.
Yeah.
This is it. This is what we're trying to drive home here.
Yeah. So exactly and it doesn't matter what's your political view. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It doesn't matter really. And we're all there for the same purpose. And that's the cool thing about medicine. Like, and that's why I like medicine, among other things.
Right. I think the first time I've said this, I think maybe on a podcast, so sorry for repeating myself, but I think the time that really was driven home for me, really just went straight to my heart. I was interviewing Maayan Kaba. Do you know him? He's one of our Muslim medics who lives up north. And I'm not going to go into the details, but he was the first on scene at a pigua. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me, it was just, the whole dynamic is so weird. The first person to show up at a pigua being a Muslim, right? Yeah. And how he kept in touch with the family. But the way he said it, he goes, you know, he said something like, when you cut open a body, there's no difference. It's just the same blood. It's the same flesh. It's the same bones. And like, I don't know. I never, like, obviously I thought of it before, but the way he said it, I was like, it's crazy, you know? And of course, that's obviously in all medicine. But I think specifically in Israel, where there is that incredible gap.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That we can have our arguments and we can have our disagreements, but when it comes to saving a life, it doesn't matter who I am and who you are.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does Jess do? Does she work?
She works in Jerusalem in a high-tech company, Lightrix. So she's in a very different field.
Nice. So where's the baby?
The baby just started daycare.
Ah, nice. Okay.
Yeah, she was in mat leave for 6 months and just went back to work.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
And she's like, so how does that work in terms of your relationship and like I always ask all the couples this, like, okay, so you're giving the baby a bath and your Bluetooth, what do you, your Bluetooth, your Bluebird. Bluebird is the phone that they have, that everyone has. So how does that work? You just like drop everything, like, Jess, I'm going, grab your vest and run?
Yeah, she's very used to it. Like sometimes I've been in the hood for a long time now. So
how many years actually?
I actually do. I was trying to think about it before the podcast. I don't remember, but right after I got out of the army, so it's 2014. It's several years now.
Right.
I don't know, 7 years or so she's used to it. Like she wakes up and I'm gone, and like I don't have time to leave a note. Sometimes I text her or something, and then I come back. She's like, we went to a call, right? Like, yeah, sorry. Or if I like we're doing something, or she just made me coffee, like, and then I get a call, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I have to take this one. She's very
she's supportive and understanding.
Oh yeah, definitely very supportive of your understanding.
And proud, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's proud. She's like, I don't know how you do that. Like, I can be in the middle of something, whether I'm sleeping or working or with my baby or whatever, and she's just like.
So you leave your phone on all night next to you, like you get called.
Yeah.
Also because you're right next to a highway. So
I'm right next to.
Do you get a lot of car accidents?
There are a lot of car accidents. Actually, car accidents are a little more difficult to get to without a motorcycle. I don't have a motorcycle. So usually I actually go to the scenes that are less on the highway, more in the houses. But yeah, definitely there's a lot of car accidents right there. Yeah.
So what's also very interesting is that from my point of view, from sitting in media, it's kind of like I see the same faces over and over and over. Like, oh, if we need a female paramedic, there's like 3 women that come to mind, you know? And I think it's really beautiful. If I had to just say one midah, I mean, I see many, but one midah that seems to be really emanating from like you is that you're just mamash anavat. Like you're really, you're not trying to, like you just said, even with the news at this crazy story at the Pride Parade, like you're just not necessarily interested in, like you're doing it, we would say lishma. How do you say lishma? Like for the sake of saving life, and that's it, without any strings attached, without any fanfare, without needing the publicity or your face on the front page of our website or magazine. Right. And I think that it's really special because, like, to tell you the truth, I didn't know you were a paramedic. I thought you were, a medic. So I'm just like, what? We have another paramedic woman in this area? And I think that's really, really special. Of course, now we're going to bug you all the time and beg you to do a million things. But I'm glad that we at least started here. I mean, it's really, really important, your mission. And I want to know, like, is there anything that you feel you just want to, like, say to the world? Like, here I'm giving you a platform and I don't know. Is there anything you want to say, like, pressure?
Yeah,
no pressure.
Wow, no pressure. Anything you want to say to the world?
Anything you want to say to the world?
I think that the, how would I say it? I think we all have stereotypes, and you can't avoid it. I mean, I come from a certain background, and I think certain things about certain people. But I think that what I find a lot is once you meet a person, no matter where, it doesn't have to be a medical situation, but if you meet a person, it doesn't matter what they're wearing, what you think of them, what's the situation that you're meeting them, try to come to it clean. I mean, try to see the person in the situation, and try to stay open-minded. I mean, I from my perspective, when I'm in a hospital or in a school or whatever, I don't like when people assume things about me. I don't like, especially when they assume wrong. So I think keeping an open mind and really coming to hear the person, not with judgment, I think is a really important thing that we're lacking. I mean, everywhere, and also in Israel. Specifically in Israel. And I think that, I mean, when it comes it comes to saving lives, and it comes to United Hatzalah, in a way it's easier because you come to a scene and you come to save lives. So obviously nobody cares what's your political view or, if you believe in God
before
or
you
not.
save my husband, did you vote for Trump? No.
Yeah, exactly. But in other situations, it's easier to fall to that. It's easier to judge someone based on, what you think about them. And I think really like having an open line, an open conversation is a way to reduce a lot of the hatred that there is. And I really like United Hatzalah for that. Like that it's an organization that really does not care at all about your background and what you're, as long as you're in it to save lives, you're welcome. And that's really cool.
Yeah, it's unique.
And it's very unique, and it really is one of the only platforms that I feel like that I can get to meet all these people. because you grow up in certain schools, certain after-school activities, and then you go to the army, and you see the same people, a lot of the same people. And this is
the common thing. I keep hearing this. It's like a theme. People keep saying, like, I have meaningful encounters or conversations with people that I never would have come across. Even if we're standing in line at the bank, I would never going to be like, start talking to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And here you really get to know them. And also every chapter has, I never know how to say gibush, like fun days, like not extracurricular, like days to have fun together and get to know each other. So it's like real interaction. It's not only on the emergencies, right? Like,
yeah, no, definitely. There are a lot of events that we get to see each other, and it's so cool to see. I mean, I don't think it happens anywhere else where you see, maybe in hospitals also, that you have really like also all the type of people that are working there. That you see this guy from Abu Ghosh, this Muslim guy speaking to a Haredi guy, and then this woman from Mevaseret, and they're all just, good friends, and all living their lives. And it makes it so much simple. Like we think that we're so different, but we all want the same thing.
Humans are humans.
Yeah. And I think we tend to forget that.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think United Hatzalah is one of the many few places in Israel, maybe the world, that like it just doesn't matter. Yeah. It's just humanity, and that's it. So it is a privilege, and even though I'm not a medic, which is another story entirely, but I feel very privileged that I work for an organization that believes that, because I've also mentioned this on other podcasts, but I grew up with Maayan didn't listen to other podcasts, so now I have to. Sorry. But if you heard it, then she's gonna go listen to all of them now. All of them. But I grew up with a special needs sister and I had 24-hour nursing in my house, and we had every single kind of nurse, every color, gender, origin, language. I joke, we even had a Salem witch. It's a true story. She practiced Salem witchery, whatever that means. I still don't know. But can you imagine if the United Hatzalah was like Jews, Arabs, Christians, and Salem witchery? No, we haven't gone that far. But I really grew up with like such an open understanding of just human beings, and there was never anything like, this is our way of life, but and that's their way of life, and like that's it. You just live together. So I feel privileged to work in an organization that really drives that mission home. Yeah. I want to ask you one last thing. I'm just curious about before we finish. I'm curious. You're not Chosen, right? Psychotrauma Crisis and Response Unit. Something that keeps coming up, and I'm curious to ask you about this. A lot of people are beginning to know more and more about the unit, but their understanding of the unit is our medics showing up for emotional first aid at scenes. What's more or less known is that the organization is also there for our medics when they're having difficulties after a situation or a traumatic call. So I'm curious, have you had any experience with that? Have you ever been on a call where afterwards you got a call from the psychotrauma unit saying like, hey, are you okay? Do you need support? I mean, back when this crazy story happened,
that was, I think, before.
Yeah, it was before.
That was one of the things that also drove me to volunteer. I think maybe once I did go. We were doing CPR on a young teenager who unfortunately committed suicide, and we worked hard on her for a while, and eventually she did go to the hospital eventually, but she didn't make it. And then I think that was the one time where I did get a call afterwards asking. I was first on the scene, and I started the CPR by myself, basically. Wow. And then they did call me afterwards and asked if I want to talk or whatever. And I didn't feel like I needed to. I mean, I felt like it was definitely a hard situation, but I didn't feel like I needed it. And I do know at this point in my life, after so much experience, when I need it and when I don't. So I didn't move forward with it, but that was the only encounter.
How do you handle that?
I think I process it by myself, and also I try to process it with someone that was there, or someone I feel that I can talk to with it openly, because I think sometimes, even if I have a really close friend or or my wife or a family member, sometimes I feel like it's hard for them to hear those things, because if you don't come from I don't want it to be traumatic for them. So I find someone that another paramedic that's a friend of mine, and I can process that with them. And also my outlet is a lot of times sports. I work out, and that's something that very helps me clear my mind if I go on a run or I go to work out, and just kind of
like review the situation.
Yeah, it helps me kind of think it clearly and just do something active with my body, like not sit down and think about it.
Right.
So I've learned to do that, and then I mean, that's mostly. I think I've learned to be in the situation and be in it very professionally. I mean, that I go into it and I think, okay, what is happening? What is the medical situation? I mean, is this CPR? Is this a trauma? Whatever it is, and just run on the protocol and do what I need to do, and try to stay in the moment as much detached as I can from the emotional part of it. That I find that helps me in the end. Afterwards, of course, you can. I mean, when you do CPR on a 16-year-old, you're not a robot. But try to stay focused in the situation, do whatever you can, and then afterwards do the processing and not try to dwell on it when you're in it.
Right. Is there a certain kind of call that makes you more, I don't want to say traumatized, but is it more of a trigger than others?
I mean, I think children, whenever I get a pediatric call about something, that's always the scariest. You don't want to get it wrong, you want to do, and also I think it's that's the scariest.
Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
This is why I keep telling everyone, like, I don't think I'll ever be a medic. They have a joke here, like, you use a certain amount of years you work here, and then eventually you just sign up before.
Yeah.
I'm like, wouldn't put your money on me. But we'll see. We'll never know. I just could keep talking to you forever. This is like so fascinating to me. I mean, first of all, I think it's really incredible, your outlook and the way that you said it so succinctly and so perfectly. Like, I want to like transcribe what you said and then make it our mission statement, like mamash. But you're such a good representative of what we're trying to get across here, And I think also, I think I also said this some other time, but that United Hatzalah, originally the word united came from all these different Hatzalahs uniting together from all over the country. But it was like prophecy, because really what the United represents today is just all the kinds of people that are together. So it really is a privilege. And I thank you so much for coming. We have to get her back before the snow, or she's going to have to sled home or ski home or something. But this was really impactful, and just thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Be blessed and only have good outcomes to your calls.
Amen.
And thank you for the work you do on behalf of Israel, Elivir, the entire world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for listening to the United Humans podcast.
Share this with a friend, subscribe, and we already know you're going to leave us a positive review, so we'll just thank you now for that.
Bye.
Adios.